Hello, my beautiful manifestation queens. Thank you for tuning in again for this iconic and beautiful episode with a woman who really inspired me. And I was just in awe when I heard her story and landed in her energetic field. And I'm just so grateful to have this experience and have this conversation with a story so impactful that you will not want to miss it. And truly expansive when things just didn't make sense. The most illogical realities that didn't make any logical sense completely happened and quicker than you would have ever imagined. And so she walks us through really, really powerful exercises that helped her get to this point. She made $120,000 in 40 days after making the most expensive investment in her life without even having the money to do so. And she completely teaches women how to operate from their highest self-worth and lead with love into their truest soul's work. And so it only made sense to have the Kayla Anderson on today's podcast as the manifestation goddess herself. We welcome today Kayla Anderson. Hello, Kayla. How are you?
Hi, I'm so
Hi.
good.
Oh,
So excited to be here.
thank
Thank you for
you.
having me.
Oh, thank you for coming. You look absolutely stunning. I'm so excited
Really.
for our conversation today. And yeah, thank you for coming. I was telling my producer when I heard your story, I was like completely in awe and just amazed by your story and you as a being just watching you on Instagram and all of the work that you do is so incredible. So I'm just so honored to have you today.
Mm, thank you.
You're welcome. So, yeah, I just it only makes sense to have you on today. And so, with that being said, let's just hop right into it. I would love for you to kind of give us a little introduction about who is Kayla Anderson and, the biggest and most important things about you and what you hold near and dear to your heart.
Mm. So, hi everyone. Yeah, my name is Kayla Anderson. This is always such an interesting question because there's so many paths I could take with who is Kayla Anderson. But I guess I'll speak a little bit to, yeah, my work and how I got here. So I am a self-worth coach. I'm working mostly with women in business, helping them to show up in their business, but through the lens of self-worth, through the lens of deeply believing in themselves and allowing that deep self belief to influence every area of their business, allowing that devotion to feeling it all as we move through business. Because if you're in the world of business, you know that it's such a spiritual initiation, and so many of our stories can come up. The stories of, am I good enough? Can I charge that much? Will anyone pay for this? Will anyone sign up to this? We bring all of our stories with us into the world of business. And so I really work with women that are really ready to feel all of that with with so much devotion, but also so much care and love. Because when we can see our business from the space of like, I accept every part of me that comes up along this journey, and I love and I can love on the different aspects of myself that arise as I move through that journey. Business gets to be this exciting journey of growth and expansion, and we're always contracting and expanding and contracting and expanding within business. And when we have the tools to ride those waves and love ourselves in that, that's where we really become unstoppable, right? Because there's never going to be a moment where we're not moving through that journey of a contraction and expanding and having new layers and levels of self-doubt arise along the way. So I really help women get what they want and like have these incredible lives and welcome in so many aligned people into their world, but through more of an energetic lens, through working on the version of themselves that they bring into the world and into their businesses. And you might be wondering how I kind of got to doing that. And um, really, if we just take a few steps back in time, and I won't go too deeply into my whole life story, but
Mhm.
just to sort of paint the picture, what initiated me into this work was growing up with a drug addicted father. So my father was a meth addict in the early years of my life, and my mum would move through spirals of not knowing whether he was going to come home. Sometimes he would be gone for days on end. And he was really struggling. And as a child, I'm absorbing all of this kind of information from my environment, the stories about whether men are safe or not, because I'm watching the abuse happen in my home and whether I'm loved or not as I watch my father disappear for days on end and, absorbing in my mother's womb the stress that she was going through. And so essentially downloaded all these stories,
Mhm.
all of these stories of like, I'm not good enough, and stories around money because both of my parents were on government support. We really didn't have much at all. And so there was a lot of scarcity um, woven into my nervous system and into my subconscious mind as a child. And fast forward to my early 20s, um, and even throughout my teenage years, I was constantly seeking for validation for approval from others. I had this deep sense that I wasn't good enough, that I'm not lovable, that I'm going to be abandoned, that life's not working out for me. And that really showed up in my teenage years, but then highlighted even more when I was in my early 20s and I um, went through this journey of training in the gym to get the perfect body because, of course, that's what, makes you happy, right? The perfect body.
Mhm.
And I'm getting more and more toned, more and more fit. I've got abs. I'm training to compete in a bodybuilding competition because surely when I'm standing on stage and winning a medal, then I'm going to feel good enough. But what was happening was the more I reduced my weight, the more I toned my body, the more I would stand in the mirror and think, when is it going to happen? That place where I feel like I'm good enough because the lower the scales went, the more I wanted, the
Mhm.
more weight I had to lose. There was never that point until I ended up hitting a rock bottom, um, finding myself deep in a binge eating disorder that I never felt like I could escape from, body dysmorphia, absolutely hating what I looked like in the mirror. And from that deep, deep place, I sought help in another personal trainer. And I went to her and I was like, I need help to get back on track. Like, please make me a meal plan, make me a training program. Like, oops, take me to the next competition so I can get back on track. And she looked at me and she was like, Kayla, you don't need that. You don't need another training program. You don't need another meal plan. You need to go home and look in the mirror and tell yourself that you love yourself.
Mm.
And that was so interesting because at that point in time, one, that didn't feel like a possibility at all. And two, I just paid for her service and I felt gutted about it. I was like, I can't believe I just paid for that. She's
Mhm.
telling me to go and tell myself to love myself. Like, what? But I was in this place where the binge eating was so intense, my body hurt, I was gaining weight rapidly, I was so low, and I just had no choice. And so I went and stood in the mirror and I told myself those words. And that was the start of what I called my self-love journey. And that was over a decade ago now.
Mm.
But that really sparked this like exploration of accepting myself as I am, feeling worthy, unraveling the core wounds that I had, and really starting to shift everything in my life. And within that journey, I discovered so much about myself and eventually left a long term relationship. Booked a one-way ticket. I was a personal trainer at the time. I took my business online and I started traveling the world. And in that period, I was just like absorbed in as many teachings as I could find with mentors all around the world in the realms of self-love, um, building self-worth, understanding the laws of the universe, and being able to shift what I believe and shift the energy that I emanate in order to attract in more of what I want and feel more of this sense of wholeness. And so I was working a lot with people that were really wanting to develop self-love within themselves. And eventually it led to the lens working with people and helping them in with this lens within business. And yeah, it's been a really freaking magical journey. And I'm in this space now where over the last few years, I've been going all in on the frameworks that I teach in this work and setting myself challenges because I've asked myself, like, if this is what I teach, what would happen if I went 2 feet in, like completely in on this work? And I call it riding the magic carpet.
Oh, yes. I'm gonna stop you really quick because you're,
Yeah.
like, actually answering the questions, like, that I was gonna ask you, and
Oh
so
my
I just
God.
don't want you to start covering all of them, but wait. So, 1, thank you so much for opening up and going so deep with us already, like, that is such a vulnerable share that you just shared with us, and I just wanna say thank you so much for that because I can relate to so much of all that you just said, and I'm sure a ton of our audience can too. Self worth is, you're a self worth coach and you impact thousands of hearts through your soul's work. And so when I was reading that, I'm like, wow, that is incredible because one, I think the power of the mirror is so impactful. Just really what your personal trainer told you in that moment, like, Kayla, go home and look yourself in the mirror. Like that alone was kind of like a modality, right, of energetics and all the things that we teach. And so
Mhm.
I love mirror work. And I think that is so powerful that she kind of planted that seed, right? And so what I'm imagining when that happened, like that kind of took you through to get to where you are today. And I wanted to say too, like the self-worth, you said you got into a long-term relationship. And so I feel like personally, like I am obsessed with, universal laws and hermetic principles and the energetics and harmonics and all the things. So I always laugh though because I've been single for a little while now and I'm like, I know that like on our own it's so good to do the work, and then I think that love is like the true mystery school. Like the moment that we come into a unified like relationship with someone, I feel like it can bring up so much and really take us through like a true mystery school. And so I would love to kind of hear about your thoughts on that, and like maybe for your clients, for you, how self-worth looks different from someone who's single or someone who's in a relationship, or maybe it doesn't. Like, what is your opinion on that?
Yeah, that's such a beautiful question. I think, like, For me, I probably can answer it most in terms of being on the path of being single because I, 8 years ago, left a 7.5 year relationship. And this was a few years into my journey of exploring my self-worth. And it wasn't until I hired a mentor, a life coach, and she helped me to understand the beliefs that I had around being alone and like being abandoned and all of these different things. And that was really keeping me in this long-term relationship at the time. And with her support, I brought a lot of healing into those subconscious beliefs. And it really gave me the courage to leave this long-term relationship, which I had been trying to leave
Mm,
for 4 years. And so I think on one hand, self-worth is this ability to really listen to the inner knowing of your soul and believe in yourself enough to trust that.
mm,
And believe in yourself enough to know that you can hold yourself and feel your wholeness even in the midst of what is going to be such a deep heartbreak.
mhm,
And um, yeah, going through that was really challenging, but I've pretty much been on this journey ever since then of being pretty deeply single, and that's been a huge part of my soul's evolution. Like, there's no denying that I've had to be in that because I always looked to men to fill this void inside of me.
mm,
And when I first left my relationship, it was honestly so hard not to just cling on to the next man. It was like a challenge I set for myself to not lean into any relationship until I felt so content in my own energy. So I think the single life is so great for building self-worth because at the end of the day, you are the person that is walking this life with you till the very end. What kind of relationship do you have with yourself?
mm,
And how content and how fulfilled and how much fun can you have in this connection with you? And I think being single is the most beautiful initiation and opportunity to just spiral deeper and deeper and deeper into this like union with you. And over the years, I've learned different practices that really have just helped me to feel so whole inside and source within myself instead of looking outside of myself. And in the moments where life is really challenging, be my own best friend, be my own lover, like make my life so romantic if no one else is, like, even if no one else is in it.
mhm,
And it's been so freaking beautiful in that sense. And also through that, I have attracted the most beautiful connections into my life. And for most part, it's been friendships, but deeply, deeply intimate friendships. And through the depth of those friendships, yeah, have been mirrored back so much. Like you say, relating with another is like also so big and such an initiation. And so, yeah, I have noticed in relationship with others, like the medicine of feeling your worth in those experiences and coming into those connections from my wholeness and from this like deep acceptance of myself. And then I'm met with that as well. Like that's mirrored back to me in a way where I'm meeting like the most authentic people and we have such deep and beautiful conversations. And sometimes really sticky stuff arises, but there's like a loving conversation that gets to be had, because we're both in this place of like ownership of the different parts of us that come up because of that closeness and that deeper connection that we have with ourselves. We're able to see like what parts of us are arising in relationship and not spiral into so much shame around them.
I love
Um,
Yeah, I
yeah.
feel like it's like when we do spend that alone time, we really get to meet ourselves at the depths of our soul. And it's like so powerful to sit in that stillness of like, who are we? And those, moments of like just stillness with ourself and really get to meet ourselves there. And I think it's like as above, so below. It's like as deep as you get to go your in your
Mm.
solitude is how high you get to go in unity, or vice versa. But I think I totally relate. It's like I grew up without my dad too, so a little different than your story, but I definitely have so many things come up where I'm like, oh, okay, and just kind of tried to gently observe them and not judge them, and just sit in that relaxed knowing that like things are always unfolding in our favor. And then also, like you said, the self love is really like, okay, like when our heart is telling us something isn't in resonance with our heart, how are we showing up in love for ourselves? And like that's something that I've had to walk through too. So it's so funny, all the things that you're saying, I really deeply resonate with them because, I have had to walk away during my pregnancy, and that was super
Wow.
challenging with, you know, someone who I love deeply. And I really had extreme heartbreak. And I knew in my heart, though, like something had to change. And now I am able to withhold a beautiful relationship in that manner. And so it's all like unfolding so well, and just showing, meeting yourself in that love and in that high self-worth is just so powerful. No matter what it may look like to anyone else, it's like you're the only one that gets to be the judge of what your heart is saying and feeling and responding to, right?
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. And that's such a practice, but life just become and it can be so challenging. Like I can only imagine how challenging that would have been to be pregnant and make that choice. Like that is such a courageous, bold move, but I'm sure you can like reflect on that and just recognize how much life had you in that and how much listening to that actually created so much peace and magic in your life.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And it is, it's like such a tricky thing. And it can be like, it can just be so raw, It's like, how raw are you really willing to go? Or do you want to just cover it up? And I also think sometimes we can like, I know with my clients and just in general, like a lot of convincing is going on, It's like, how long are you willing to convince yourself? Or how raw are you willing to go and to really listen to your heart? Um, yeah, because I just feel like it really will get louder and louder. And that's what happened with me. And so it's like, we just have to show ourselves that love and meet ourselves in that high self-worth, and then rebuild and do what it takes to pull ourselves out of it again, and like know that it's okay to walk through that and to experience the highs and the lows, the peaks and the valleys. It's like so important. And that's something that you posted recently too, is, why is failure crucial to our trajectory? And again, it's something that failure can look so many ways. And so it's like, is it failure? But, how can things, when things don't go as planned, or according to your plan, and circumstances present themselves a little differently, how is that crucial to our trajectory?
Mm. Oh, I always feel so passionate about speaking into this because I
Yay.
feel like there's such a I we have this idea of things needing to like go a certain way and be perfect and shame ourselves or judge ourselves when it's not. But really, how I like to see life is when we have a desire for our lives, whether that's getting that dream partner or having this income each month or, the successful business, the loving family, like whatever it is, you cast that vision into the quantum field of infinite potential. You hold that strong in your heart. Like you know that that's a desire in your heart. And you have an idea around how you can walk that path to that thing. You have an idea around how it's going to look. And sometimes what can happen is life hears that desire and you may receive it. But if your vessel, if your physical vessel is holding stories of doubt, is holding patterns that are not in congruence with that desire, they will come up to the surface for your best interests. Like it's a gift in the moments where you feel like you're going 10 steps backwards because life is simply revealing to you where you are not yet free. Life is simply revealing to you what is in your field that is not in congruence with what you want.
Mhm.
I had this moment 2 years ago where me and my friends created this club. It was called the 250K Club and we were going to make 250K that year. And we would meet every month. We were so devoted to this journey, and everything was crumbling in my life. Finances felt harder than ever before. It felt like the more I focused on the thing that I wanted, the less um I moved towards it. It felt like the more I was pushed away from it, the more that came up for me, the more clients were bailing on their payments, the more my launches weren't going that well. And eventually I got to this point, which felt like quite a financial rock bottom for me at the time. And I was just sitting there and I'm like, I need to get out of the 250K club. This is so hectic. Like, it's not working.
Oh my God.
Take me out. I honestly nearly pulled out. And actually, what was happening was life was showing me where I'm not yet free. Failure, I don't believe failure exists. It's just life gives you the most incredible information. Life literally gifts you with all of the stories, all of the patterns. Because when I look back at that time, I'm like, oh, yeah, when else do I do this? When I get to the certain point and I grip and I freak out and I cling to money.
Mm.
That was my breakthrough moment, that rock bottom. I had to arrive at that rock bottom moment to get so comfortable with my worst case scenario and find the version of me that got to rise within that.
Ah, yes.
Like, it's like not being so nervous about everything turning to shit because who do we get to become? Like, stop trying to micromanage the lessons, even if they're hard, because who do you get to become in that journey?
Ah,
Like, you would not become a vessel that can hold what you want if you didn't allow yourself to go through the crumbling, if that is what life brings forward for you. And so, I follow a guy called David Guillaume. He teaches on the Kabbalah and he always shares about this practice of saying, pausing and saying, what a gift. Like when it feels like you're failing, when it feels like you're taking 10 steps backwards, can you pause and say, what a gift? And the the journey isn't about never failing or never feeling like you're going backwards or never ending up in that rock bottom place where it feels like everything's crumbling. It's not about never getting there. It's about how you hold yourself in those moments. Are you the kind of person that can be so loving and so devoted to meeting everything that comes up? Because if you can do that, you're able to alchemize, to see deeply what's unfolding, move it through your body and make yourself a space for more. And that's a part of, like, that's such a delicious part of the journey when you understand it in that way. Suddenly you're not so scared of failing or going backwards because you know that it's a necessary part of the clearing of your vessel so that the thing that you want can come in.
So beautifully said. Everyone watching needs to rewind and rewatch that because that was like an activation you just took us through. and and so how long after this moment in time that you just explained to us, how long after was it that you went all in your business and then had your 120K month launch? Well, in 40 days, you did that in 40 days, right? So how long after was that insane launch that you completely like shifted and quantum leaped into?
Yeah, so we went through the 250K club about 2 years ago, and I have been, it must be coming up 3 years, 2 or 3 years ago. And I had been working on my money story for many years before that, layer by layer. It's like the peeling of an onion.
Mm,
And, the 250K club was really a year of clearing for me. It was such a year of like excavation work,
mm,
going deep into the patterns, into the contractions. And then, fast forward a few years, last year, at the start of last year, I decided, okay, I just had a real honest look at my life. I had a really honest look at my life and I saw two areas where I was still settling: men and money.
mm,
I was still attracting unavailable men and getting tangled up in dynamics that weren't serving me. And I was still hovering at um, a monthly income that I would never go below, but I was never really going that far above it. Like sometimes I would, but I would always come back to this baseline that was okay, but it wasn't like amazing, you know?
mhm,
And I had this thought of what would happen if I went all in on what I teach, which is frequency first, which is really deeply anchoring in to the version of me that is already making a certain amount a month and is already in her divine love partnership. And so I went all in. Created a daily practice. I had an altar that symbolized what I was anchoring into, that I would look at every day. It had specific things on it, like quite a specific ritual I started practicing. Um, and I asked myself, like, what standards does this woman have that is already in the relationship, that is already making this much? And what action is she taking that I'm not already taking? And so I went all in, like, every day I'm doing this ritual. Every day I'm asking, because there's a version of ourselves that exists on a different timeline that is already living the life that we're currently in this timeline manifesting. The woman that makes 100K a month, the version of me that's in a relationship, she holds a certain frequency and she exists. She exists. If all timelines are existing at once, then she's literally existing on another timeline. And so I got into this daily practice of anchoring into that timeline and feeling in with every cell of my body. I was in the practice of how can I bring my entire body on board with the knowing that this is already done, because I see in the manifestation world a lot. There's this pattern where people are like, I'm manifesting this, I'm manifesting this,
mhm.
I'm manifesting my dream house. No, you're living in your dream house. You're not manifesting your relationship, you're in it. There's a very subtle shift energetically inside of your body when you move from I'm manifesting this, which is that's not here yet, I'm calling that in, to that's already me. I am already that person that has that. When you can make that subtle shift in your manifestation practice, you are going to collapse timelines with so much more ease. And it's almost like my friend gives this example, and it's not a very good example, um, but it kind of makes sense. And no disrespect given to people with schizophrenia, but my friend gave me this example of how he manifested like a multiple $1 million business. And he told me, Kayla, I used to live as if I had schizophrenia. There would be the version of me that's living this current reality, but then there would be the version of me that already had a $10 million business. And I would live as him every single day. It was almost like, how much can I get into that personality, even though my physical reality is not showing that right now? And so every day I was getting into that identity, that frequency of like, I am already that being. I am already in a relationship. I am already making $50,000 a month I was anchoring into. And as I moved through each day, you start to become aware of the subtle moments where you're in the old conditioning, right? You're running the old program. And I look at it like radio stations.
Mhm.
There's like lack FM where you're on that frequency, you're hearing that music, and then you're seeing that in your physical reality. Things that represent everything that that radio station represents. And so it's this daily practice of can I tune into Abundance FM? Can I tune into Abundance FM? And in the moments where I can hear the lack FM coming in, I just retune the dial. And I'd have practices where my physical environment set up so well to remind me of the frequency and the version of myself that I'm choosing. You want because we're such habitual beings, like 95% of the day, you're moving through this life from your subconscious conditioning,
Mhm.
your subconscious mind, which, a lot of the time holds many stories around what's possible for you or not. And so you want you want repetition when you're choosing a new frequency. And for me, that's like setting alarms that go off. And then when they go off, it's this reminder to anchor in. And how it's not always about like anchoring in all throughout the day, but having moments throughout your day, like your morning practice and just a few other moments throughout the day where you take time to really anchor into that. And this practice of feeling that frequency is something that I show many of the clients in my world how to do. But essentially, you can download any frequency you like. And once you learn how to do that, you can just bathe in that frequency, and it feels so special and delicious in your body. And you get to a point where you don't even need that physical thing to come into form anymore, because there's a level of contentment and fullness you can feel from the frequency alone. And that's where you want to get to, because everything you want, a lot of the time you only want it because when you get it, you think it's going to make you feel a certain way. But the biggest hack is feeling that way now, choosing that emotional signature now, and enjoying that so deeply. The more that you do that, the more you don't actually need that thing to come into form. And that is key to your manifestation practice, because the more importance you place on something coming into your world, like that love, the love of your life, the more importance you place on that, the more you energetically hold, I don't have that. And so you repel that from coming in. And the other thing I'll just finish with is in that journey, in this morning practice, when you are connecting with the frequency of the version of you that already has it, that is existing on another timeline, that version of you is able to communicate with you. And so every day that the version of me that was making 50K a month was communicating with me and saying, I would say, what action would I take today, knowing that this is already done? How do I move through this day knowing that this is already done?
Mm.
And I would just take that action. And so I, going into making 120K in 40 days, I had been practicing this for maybe like 4 months or 5 months at this point in time. And I was feeling more and more and more that there was this mentorship, which is how Destiny and I actually met, working with Shoshana Raven. And I'd been following Shoshana for over a year and looking at her mentorship, but telling myself the story that I'm not the kind of person that can invest in that. And in New Zealand dollars, the level of mentorship that I signed up for was around like 50,000 New Zealand dollars. And so it would have been the biggest investment in mentorship that I've ever made. And I was on the fence, but my heart was saying, and this is coming back to that heart leadership and trusting that, right? My heart was saying, do it, do it, do it. And I was so scared, but I was like, if I deeply believed that I am the woman that's making $50,000 a month, I wouldn't be questioning this because that's my monthly income. I would make it back with ease.
Mhm.
And I went into this really deep meditation one night where I was shown and I had a felt sense deeper than ever before of the power of our thought creating our reality. And I already understood this being in this world of manifestation and understanding the laws of the universe. There's like, of course, our thought creates reality.
Mhm.
But the way that I felt that in that moment was deeper than I had ever felt it before. And I was shown the words, yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And I felt through that meditation the power of those three words and how those three words could get me through anything. And if I went all in on this and said yes to this $50,000 mentorship, I might fail, lol. No such thing really. I might not be able to pay that back. It might all turn to custard if if I let my beliefs and my thoughts go down that route and link me up to timelines where that's not possible for me. But what I was showing was I have to go all in on this. I have to say yes, and then put everything I teach into practice once more.
Mm.
And so I said yes to the mentorship. And that leap itself was such an alignment with a different timeline. I just quantum leaped through that decision alone because that decision alone came from the woman that's making $50,000 a month. And as I made that decision, I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. Shoshana allowed me to pay a smaller deposit and then I had to pay the other $8,000 in 2 weeks' time. I did not have that money in my bank. I had no idea how I was going to pay it. But I said yes, I paid the initial deposit. And through that leap of faith, not knowing at all how it was going to work out for me, not having that money in the bank at all, not having that much, like not having enough of a monthly income at that point in time to be able to make the repayments and pay off everything else that I needed to pay. It
Mhm.
was a very much a leap of faith. And then, um, as I did it, I aligned with this new timeline and it was just like boom, 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 because I'm thinking at the level of the woman that invests 50K now, there was no time to muck around. There was no time to take just any action. My action had to be so precise. My action had to be deeply aligned with the woman that's paying back a 50K mentorship. So I ended up raising my pricing. I changed the copy on my website because I realized that I wasn't working within my genius zone. I launched my one-on-one coaching package and my group offer. It's called Heart Led and it has two tiers. You can do one-on-one and the group space or just the group space. So I raised my pricing there and then I said, I'm going all in now on frequency first and I'm going to sell better than I ever have before because the stakes are so high. I have to pay this mentorship back. And so and I was just so filled with like confidence because I'm now that woman that invests that much in myself. Like I felt so powerful in that. Like, wow, I'm choosing to be that woman. Like no one in my family has ever been able to invest that much in themselves, you know? Like it was a huge moment in my life. And through that, going all in, frequency first, turned the dial right up on all of my practices. Within 3 days, I had made over $30,000 back. Within a week, I had made $50,000 back. And then within 30 days, 100,000. And as my launch finished, I had made 120,000 in 40 days.
Wow.
And that's in sales within my business. So that's not like all in my bank right at one point in time, but that was the total sales from the launch. And it was just such a moment of like, whoa,
Wow.
life
Yeah.
got
It was
my
like
back.
so non-logical, like all of that. Like there's none of it even makes any logical sense to someone who would be logically thinking, right? It's like you had no idea how you were going to do it, but you said yes through your self-worth because you believed you were valuable. Like you valued yourself high enough to know that this is you're worthy of this, right? Like a lot of people can't even I mean I hate to say a lot of people can't, but a lot of people that first step, right, is like probably the basis of the first step is believing that you're worthy of this. And I totally relate. It's so funny because I don't even know. I heard in my head someone, I thought someone of my close friends or in my groups that I'm in said to me something about Shoshana Raven. And to this day, I can't figure out who it was. And it's funny that you said our highest self communicates with us because now through listening to you speak, I'm like, I wonder if it was just, myself communicating on that next timeline. And I still couldn't figure it out. I asked all of the friends that I spoke to, I'm like, who mentioned this girl to me? Like I can't figure it out. And it just all aligned so quickly, so fast, and things just completely started to shift in the best ways, and they continuously do so. But I'm just listening to you, like, is amazing to know, like, okay, one, we're worthy of this, right? Like we're worthy of massive payment for our purpose and for our message and our work. Like we are completely worthy of that. And I feel like that is so important to like step into fully. And then the second thing I wanted to say too is like, I that delusion trend would happen where people are like, oh, the delulu. And I went on a rant one day and I was like, delusion means it's not real. If you are manifesting through delusion, you believe something that isn't real, but this is real. Like this actually is already done. So that whole trend was like funny and interesting to me because I'm like, no, it's not delusional. It's the norm. This is the expectation. This is completely normal, like the oxygen that we're breathing. And so I know that you're impacting all of your clients, and just this conversation alone has impacted me so much. I feel like you were speaking to so many different versions of me, different timelines, and I'm sure all the audience can really relate to this too. And it's just so powerful to be able to be in this space. Like who would have thought? I know I'd never imagined myself here in this space, like doing the work that I'm doing today. And I'm just like, the fact that our highest self led us here, that like every incident led us here to this moment, like that guiding force, the magnetic pull, the infinite realm of possibilities, like led us to this moment, is so incredible. And all the connections and all the beautiful love that we get to experience every day through just living that fun, like, you know, experience of love and miracles and infinite like abundance is just so beautiful, because the limit really is non-existent. Like it just continues and is infinite forever. It never ends. So yeah, how can everyone find you, Kayla? I know everyone's going to want to work with you and find your program. So can you tell us how we can find you?
Yeah, so probably the best way to find me is through Instagram. I'm like all in on the Instagram life. There's not many other platforms that I actually fully use. So you can follow me at Love with Kayla Anderson. Um, yeah, that would be probably the best spot. And if you're not on Instagram, my email is hello at Love with Kayla Anderson.
Yay. And I will tag your links below so everyone can find them in the tagged links below. And again, Kayla, I'm just so grateful for this. Like, you are so powerful, and I'm just like blown away. I mean, your story moves me in so many ways. I can relate to like so many levels of this beautiful story, and I am just so excited to continue to witness your work evolve and expand, and like all the people that you're impacting. I just know it's truly deeply impactful work, and I'm just so grateful to have met with you in this infinite realm of possibilities and to resonate with you and to be in your field. And so thank you so much for being here today. I feel like it went by like 2 seconds, and I feel like I could listen to you talk all day long. You have the most beautiful voice and accent and like embodiment. Everything about you is just so beautiful. And so
Mm,
thank you.
thank you, love. Oh, my heart feels so full receiving that. Yeah, it's been such an honor to like chat with you today and be a part of this podcast. It really just feels so special. I'm so stoked that we got to meet in Denver all of those months ago. And yeah, just appreciating you. Thank you.
Yay, I'm so appreciative of you too. And we'll stay in touch. I can't wait to rewatch this video, and I will tag you and we'll stay in touch. um, what else? Let's see. Maybe we can leave them off with one thing. Maybe is there one thing you want to leave off with to just leave everyone off with? I don't know. Let's see. Is there something that comes to your mind really quick?
Um, I think probably the last thing I would like to say is for anyone that is in a situation where they're questioning whether it's possible for them to make a big leap like that, you know, what you said before, the journey of making that 120K was so illogical. And I have a technique that helps me to move within those illogical decisions.
Yes,
Um,
please share.
and Yes, a three circle visualization. So, and this is a manifestation technique that I learned and love to teach. The first circle is what we know we know. So I know my name's Kayla. I know that we're talking on a podcast right now. Second circle, what we know we don't know. I know that I don't know how much I weigh right now or what my mum's um weight is either. Such a weird
Right.
example. So what we know, we don't know.
Hmm.
And then there's a third and outer ring, which is what we don't know, we don't know.
Mm.
And that's the realm of infinite potential. Like, that's the world we live in. We have the ability to access this realm of infinite potential, but so often we're trying to move forward with what we know, or what we know we don't know. And that limits us so deeply. And so, in order to get into the third ring and live there more often, you say, you might be having like a beautiful moment, and like me in this podcast, I might get off end of this podcast and say, how did I get so lucky? So you're sinking into gratitude. What more is possible? And you're not comprehending that. It's beyond your mind. So just by simply stating what more is possible, you bring yourself into that outer ring of infinite potential and you just let that out into the quantum realm. What more is possible? Don't need to think about it anymore. But when you're making big decisions, remember that. Remember there's this outer ring of infinite potential. The more you have faith in that, the more effortlessly you will be able to take action in alignment with this higher version of you.
Ah, wow. Yes, that is so powerful. It's exceedingly abundantly, like beyond measure. Like we can't even measure it if we tried, right? Like that. And I always say too, like we were created through like we weren't created through the logical mind. So like how much are you creating with your logical mind? Because you alone in your own existence wasn't created with logic. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that multi-billion-dollar exercise with everyone and my audience. We are so lucky to have you. And how much better can it get? Thank you. I'm walking
Yeah.
away with so much gratitude and so much expansion. And Kayla, I
No,
am just so honored again to have you. And I hope we can stay in touch and maybe do this again sometime. And
I'd love
yay.
that.
So thank you again, and have a great rest of your day. And we will be in touch. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mwah, mwah. Bye.
Bye.